So what happens when an English teacher in Japan and get this, a gearbox salesman in the UK decide to team up? Well, they end up building an online empire. In this explainer, we're going to dive into their incredible story. And look, this is not your typical Silicon Valley tale. This is about solving real problems, finding the absolute perfect partner, and one single product launch that changed, well, everything.
And this quote, it just says it all, doesn't it? The journey of Jeremy Gislason and Simon Hodkinson wasn't born out of some grand master plan to make $1 billion. Nope, it started with a much simpler idea. Hey, maybe we could create something together, have some fun. And honestly, that down-to-earth approach is exactly what makes their success so amazing.
All right, so let's rewind the clock. Our story kicks off way back in the 1990s, in Japan, where Jeremy Gislason is teaching English. And he liked it, it was fulfilling, but he had this big realization. He looked down the road and just couldn't picture himself with the same energy teaching kids in his 40s. He knew, deep down, he needed a totally different plan for the long haul.
Now, you know how sometimes one little thing can just flick a switch in your brain? For Jeremy, that one thing was a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It completely flipped his perspective. He started thinking about passive income, this idea of making money even when you're not actively working. Suddenly, the old path of just trading your time for money felt wrong. And the internet, which was just starting to boom, looked like the perfect frontier to build a new kind of future.
So he dives in head first. And it did not go great at first. Not at all. He lost a lot of money. But here's the cool part, the part that really matters. He didn't see it as a failure. He just reframed the whole thing in his head. Those losses, that was his college tuition. It was the price he had to pay to learn the rules of this brand new digital game. So this timeline really maps it all out for us, right? You can see the whole progression. He goes from teaching in the 90s to that huge mindset shift in the early 2000s, and then boom, he launches his first major site, surefirewealth.com. And this wasn't just some random site. It was a membership that gave people private label rights content. He was solving a massive problem for other online marketers who desperately needed products to sell.
And through all that early trial and error, and connecting with all the other internet pioneers of the time, one lesson stood out above everything else. It was crystal clear, and honestly, it's just as true today as it was then. No matter what you are doing online, you have got to be building your mailing list. It was, and still is, the foundation of everything.
Okay, so while Jeremy's grinding away in Japan, another key player is about to step onto the stage, all the way from the UK. His name is Simon Hodkinson. He's a brilliant copywriter, an amazing designer, and he's about to become the other half of this absolute powerhouse duo.
And you gotta love how they actually connected. It's perfect. It wasn't at some fancy networking events or a conference. They were literally just each other's customers. Jeremy was buying Simon's graphics, and Simon was buying Jeremy's products. After a while, it just became obvious, like, hey, wait a minute, why don't we just do something together?
And this right here, this is why the magic happened. They were like two pieces of a puzzle that just clicked into place. Simon was the creative engine, always bubbling with new ideas for products and designs. And Jeremy, he was the master of execution. He could take those ideas and build the tech and the systems to make them a reality. You had the visionary and you had the integrator. The perfect match.
Okay, this next part is just wild. Get this, they worked together for 2 whole years. They made millions of dollars together, and they had never even met in person. I mean, remember, this is way before Zoom calls and remote work were normal for everybody. We're talking old school Skype audio calls. It just shows you the incredible level of trust and synergy they had right from the start.
So their partnership is rock solid, and they're doing really well. But then came the launch, the one that took them from having a successful side project to running a serious, life-altering business. This was the moment that proved everything they've been working on was the real deal.
So you have to ask the question, right? What actually happens when that perfect partnership comes up with a product that the market is just desperate for, and they put all their energy into one massive, focused launch?
This is what happens. $1.7 million in just 1 week from one product. Let that sink in for a second. This was the ultimate proof. It proved their partnership worked, it proved their business model worked, and it was the point of no return. They knew right then they had to get really serious about this.
And I just love this quote because it's so real. It brings it all right back down to earth. You can just picture it, right? He's having this unbelievable, life-changing financial week online. And at home, he's just the guy in the other room tapping away on his computer.
His wife literally had no idea what was going on until it just exploded. It's such a great reminder of the quiet reality behind these crazy online numbers.
Okay, so that's the story. It's an incredible story. But what's the so what? What can we actually take away from this? Let's break down their core principles, the playbook that has guided Promote Labs ever since.
Their whole philosophy really boils down to a few big ideas. First up, and this one is huge, solve your own problems first. So many of their best products came to life simply because they needed the tool themselves. Next, find the who, not the how. In other words, leverage other people's genius. They also believe in keeping teams small and nimble, the two-pizza rule. Don't get so emotionally attached to a project that you can't walk away if it's not working. And maybe the most important one of all, never forget that the real goal, the ultimate motivator, is freedom.
Let's just double-click on this who, not how idea for a second, because this is a total game changer. So many of us, as entrepreneurs, get stuck in this trap of asking, how can I do this? How can I build the website? How can I write the copy? But the real question, the one that unlocks growth, is who can I get to do this? That's leverage. That's how you scale beyond what you alone can do.
And this, right here, brings it all home. Look, the money is a great result. Of course it is. But it was never the primary driver. It was never just about the money. For Jeremy, the real prize, the thing that fueled this entire journey from the very beginning, was freedom. The freedom to control his own time, to not have a boss, to skip the commute, to provide for his family on his own terms. That was the engine.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final question to really think about. You've heard their story, this journey from teaching English in a classroom to building an 8-figure business and achieving total independence. So now you got to ask yourself, what's your thing? What's the one skill, the one passion, the one idea that you can leverage to start building your own version of freedom?